Good afternoon. My name is Peter Tyrrell and I'm the General Manager Asia Pacific for Lancer. It's the 1st of March and I want to welcome you to our low-code development webinar talking about developing faster with low-code development tools. Because we're fitting a lot into half an hour, there won't be any time for questions and answers, but I am happy to answer any questions you send through to me. You can see my email address there, and I'll also provide it for you at the end of this webinar. So let's get into it. When we talk about low-code development, I think it'd be good just to make sure that we're all on the same page because we could be at different levels of understanding. So we'll go to that wonderful font of all knowledge on the internet, Wikipedia. Now, it's a pretty good example of a definition of low-code development. It's really talking about doing things quicker by not having to do as much procedural computer programming. Not none, but not as much. Forrester is one of the two big IT consulting companies along with Gartner, and they have done research that said that by 2019 that the low-code market will be worth US $10 billion. We talked to one of their analysts recently, and he said that if we're going to just rely solely on conventional coding, we're not going to be able to handle the amount of work that we have. It's too slow and it's not flexible enough. Gartner agrees. They're saying that the market demand for application development will grow 5 times faster than IT's capacity to deliver it by 2021 if we don't do things differently. And what they say is that the current way that we approach modern development is using a lot of skills. And these are great for developers that want to list them and wow people on their resumes with the technologies they know rather than the applications or development projects that they've achieved. Last year there was also a study done of IT management. And 55% of those IT managers said that demand for application development has, not will, has already exceeded their ability to deliver. In one case, they looked at mobile application development, saying that it takes 6 months or more to develop a mobile application. And lastly, the same type of feeling comes through that application development speed is just too slow. So this was recognised last year. You've got Gartner and Forrester saying it's going to be growing 5 times more than we can actually keep up with. So the need for a low-code development solution is now. I picked the Bob Dylan's Times They Are A-Changing. This is one of those marquee type albums back in the 60s when there was huge changes in the social fabric of society. And I think we're seeing a huge change in the fabric of modern application development. I used to be a systems programmer on the mainframe where I used assembler, and that was all I needed. I was an assembler programmer and I wrote assembler programs. And they ran really fast and really well. So I thought, well, what's the advertisements that you might see today for a web application developer? So I went on to Seek yesterday, seek.com. It's one of the premier sites that's used in Australia. And I found this, web application developer full stack. They want someone that can do server, browser, and all in between. And this is their duties, and then you start to look at their requirements. So these are the must-haves. And if you can count them there, there's 12 technologies you need to know. There could be programming, there could be platforms or whatever. And then the nice-to-have is a further 11. And these could be, again, technologies or techniques. That's a hell of a lot to find in a single developer. So if I put this into a diagram, these are just examples of all the languages and technologies you need to understand if you're doing what they call full stack web development. It's not easy. Gartner say that 42% of developers consider themselves specialists. They'll specialise not only on a platform, but they may specialise in something to say, I'm a JavaScript developer. What this has led to in medium to larger organisations is the development of teams that specialise in the browser and those technologies, another team for the internet side of things, and another team for the web server or database server at the back end. I'm just going to get a sip, a bit dry. And we've now laid the framework for, or the groundwork for why we need low-code solutions and what they are. And now we're going to look at 6 ways that a low-code can help you in 2018 and what you should be looking for in a low-code solution. Well, firstly, you want to be reducing complexity, because that's part of the main nub of the problem. Remember this we just looked at? You've got many teams here with many languages and technologies. Low-code should be able to span all of those areas for the one team. So a team member should be able to do browser work, internet work, web server work within the low-code platform without having to know other different languages and techniques. And it's got to keep up to date. The second point I'd like to cover is better prototyping. Sure, prototyping's been around for ages. I mean, in this slide I've got up here, you've got the clay and the real thing shown here, but we're talking about in IT, we've done prototyping. But a lot of people will say, well, you know, we do wireframe sketches and use cases, you know, or we do storyboarding that shows you how you do it. And we might prototype little bits and pieces, but we've got to do far more than that. So you want to be able to visually prototype what the application will look, the look and feel of that application. You want to be able to simulate some of the high-level use of that. You want this to be a living prototype. What I mean by that, it doesn't mean that the prototype lives forever. It means that that prototype is then carried forward into the full development part of the project. And I'm not saying that it's any way of doing development. I'm not saying it's waterfall or time boxing or agile. There's always prototyping required, maybe even more so in agile when you're doing your sprints, etc. Less scope creep. Well, that's Agile tries to fix that by saying we're going to do small bits and not let it creep. But it can be difficult not to get a view if you can't show maybe a prototyping tool that shows you what the whole will look like before you dive down into part of it. Sometimes, and that can impact Agile development. The third point I'd like to talk about is that a low-code solution should actually accelerate your design stage. That's at the front end part of the life cycle. But also, once you've got a solution in place, it must accelerate the maintenance, because maintenance is just a bigger drag on IT developers as new development is, and sometimes more. If it's poorly structured or very difficult to find out, well, what do I need to change and what will that affect, that can really be a drag on your resources. Let's have a look at some of the areas that I believe are the key points to look at when you're looking at solutions. The data definitions need to be able to be defined in such a way that they are easy to do, easy to find, and they can be used by other application developers. You want to be able to separate business rules out from application logic. What I mean by that, you might have fields where you've got validation rules or calculations on fields to make up various types of outcomes. Well, that doesn't have to be in the application logic. If that always is connected to that item of data, it should be in a business rule. You need to be able to visualize what the data element would look like on the screen for both input and output. And you want that to be consistent across any screen that uses it. Error messages, again, you want them external to the application logic. Event triggers. You need to be able to handle any kind of event that happens in the application and trigger then the code that you want to run or the function you want to run based on that trigger. When you build components in a low-code development solution, you won't be able to share those so that they can be reused across other projects. Multilingual support. If your application will be used in more than one language region of the world, then you've got to be able to look at a solution that can give that to you in their solution rather than you having to build it. And help text, where the help text for it fields is actually externally maintained, so it can be changed if it's not clear, and then anywhere that data element is used on a field will automatically get that help text. So now we're on to point number 4, integrate with anything. If you're building a solution today, it's got to be able to play well with others. We're talking about APIs here, which covers application programming interfaces, but there was SOAP that we had, which is still around. There's REST, which is more of the flavor of the month. There's HTTP posts and GETs, etc. You need to be able to talk the more modern lingo. You need to be able to work with all the databases that are out there. Microsoft SQL Server, Oracle, MySQL, DB2. You need to be able to handle the different databases that you'll find out in the world. This is a point that's quite often not mentioned when you talk to a low-code solution provider. In some cases, it makes sense for you to build a native Windows application that runs on the desktop. And this means not in a browser, it's just a native application. And it may be better to do it that way because you want tighter integration with Windows or Microsoft Office on the desktop. There might be other reasons for connected devices or whatever. And lastly, you want it to play well with others. Now, legacy applications, some of the solution providers for low code say, oh, all you have to do to use a legacy function is to wrap it and create a RESTful interface. Well, what they're just saying, you have to do more work just to use the low-code solution. Low-code solutions should be able to directly call legacy applications and work with even the older like 5250 character-based screens. 5, simplified deployment. This is going to cover a fair bit here. From the one platform, you should get the ability to deploy to multiple interfaces on the web browser, and that can be on the desktop and tablet and phone. So we're talking about responsive design there as well, but also browser support. Mobile, web, hybrid and native type applications on different mobile devices. Windows, client server, standalone or a mixture thereof. You need to be able to support multiple databases. The servers, like on-premise servers, Windows, Linux, IBM I, cloud. The two biggies are AWS and Azure, right? And the last point here is what I call technology insurance. That's where when you're looking at a solution, you should see a vendor or a provider that has a very good competitive track record and that they've been able to show you that they embrace new waves of technology and they make it easy for you then to ride that wave without throwing things out. That's very important. You don't want a low-code solution provider that's got no track record of doing this, because all you're going to do is build a legacy platform faster. Okay, we're rounding off the 6th point here. The 6 points, I think, complete more projects. Now, that is a function of other things, but I want to talk about why that's important. Now, this is the 1st of March, so we're just into the 3rd month of 2018. So roughly we've got 200 working days left. According to Gartner, if you choose the low-code solution that actually meets your needs, you can expect 5 to 10 times the productivity per developer. So we're talking about 1,000 days left in 2018 per developer rather than 200. And I like Gartner some of the statements say that they reckon that IT chases more trends than the fashion industry, and I'd have to agree. We love it, you know. We fork things and say, well, I don't like this one, so I'll make a copy of it. We've got Angular and Angular 2, and we've got, you know, all of these different frameworks that are out there, React and all those. And everyone will say, well, this framework's better than the other. And you get technology wars going on there, just like you get fashion wars. And Gartner say that by 2020, and only 2 years away now, at least half of all the business applications that's going to be created are going to be using high productivity tool sets, which is really the low-code platforms. So we've covered a lot in a short period of time, and I'd just like to recap the 6 points. So when you're looking for this in your organisation, and it's not if, I said when, because you will have to. Reduce complexity, better prototyping, accelerate design and maintenance, integrate with anything, simplify deployment, complete more projects. We've talked about why. Under reduced complexity, we want to get away all of those multiple languages and technologies. Better prototyping, faster way to lock down and work with subject matter experts and carry that forward in development. Accelerating design and maintenance. What are the elements that the solution gives you to do that? And be sure to also look at the maintenance side of things. Integrate with anything. You have to play well with others. Simplify deployment. We're not just talking about servers, we're talking about the end devices and the different browsers that will be used on those devices. Complete more projects. Track record of being able to get that 5 to 10 times more productivity for your developers. And of course, this webinar is from Lancer, so what am I going to do? I'm going to talk about what we do. We have a single development platform that reduces the complexity. It allows you to build complex enterprise-grade applications and be able to easily maintain those. Active prototyping that you keep and move it forward in development. The repository. This is one of our real nuggets of gold. The repository is where you house the different data definitions, the help messages, the error messages, the visualizations of the data elements. I can go on and on and on. This is where it allows the leveraging of this knowledge across multiple applications and developers. Integrate with anything, SOAP, REST, direct calls, databases, single click to on-premise, single click to cloud. Lancer is available and has been for about 2 years in both the AWS and Azure marketplace. Spin up a server, click on install Lancer, import your application, you're in the cloud. Complete more projects. Lancer allows you to reuse components. Our IDE follows the mobile-first design paradigm that Google's laid down, as well as building in material design right in the IDE. This means that the applications you build will look modern, they will follow the rules that people are used to using if they're on a phone or on a desktop, and it's faster to produce an application that not only looks good, but it's good to use. So obviously, don't take my word for it, I work for Lancer. Here are some independent sites, G2 Crowd and Capterra, and they get anyone that's used our technology can go in there and say what they feel about it. They ask questions, etc. So we're rated very highly in both of those. And we've just recently been given the High Performer award from G2 Crowd. Of the 50 low-code solution providers, we're number 3 in the world. And we've been at it longer than numbers 1 and 2. So we've got a proven track record. Can we prove it? We sure can. We do this in a number of ways. One is that you can ask and we can do a special one-on-one demonstration for you where we actually build something live and you can ask questions as we're doing it. The other step is to go to a proof of concept. We will actually come on to your site, and that might be via a VPN or physically, and we can get in your development area will install the Lancer solution and essentially run against your databases and produce things that you can view in your organization. So here's the Lancer challenge. If you are really interested in knowing more about our solution, we can actually do that one-on-one special demonstration and presentation to you, or we can do that proof of concept. And you can just email info@lancer.com.au and just say, look, I'm up for the challenge. I want to work with the Lancer team and actually build something to show to management. So I'd like to thank you for your attention. You've been a great audience. Again, the Lancer challenge, info@lancer.com.au. I'll put in, the next part is a demonstration video. We've got a series of videos at lancer.com/resources/videos.htm. I commend to you the first one there. It's just over 9 minutes, and it actually shows you the prototyping assistant in building the start of what would be an enterprise application. It's really good. And again, my name is Peter Tyrrell. That's my personal email address, peter.tyrrell@lancer.com.au. I'll be very happy to field any of your questions or inquiries. So once again, thank you very much. Have a good day.